Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon or good evening, depending on what part of the world you are in. My name is Josh Berman. I am coming to you from Denver, Colorado, where, much like the rest of you, we are more or less under quarantine, as we've been for the past little bit. I think this is the part of this live exercise where we're going to wait for a few more people to get online, but looks like, yeah, a couple people are chiming in. Thanks for saying hi. Oh, hello from Chile. Right on. Yeah, cool to see such a global audience tuning into this. Anyway, first and foremost, thank you very much to F-Stop for giving me this platform and putting this on. I think this is an awesome way for filmmakers, photographers, and other F-Stop ambassadors, for one, to speak to the audience, and for two, for people that are out there in the world to be able to tune in and chat with people like myself and hopefully learn a little bit. Right on. So yeah, again, for those that don't know me, my name is Josh Berman. I run a company called Level 1. We are based here in Denver, Colorado. I've been making ski films for the past 20 years. When I'm not making ski films, we're doing other outdoor action sports content as well. But I think certainly what Level 1 and myself are most well known for at this point is our deep body of work in ski films and snow sports filmmaking. That's where we come from, and that's what we do. Yeah, well, I guess to get right into it and start answering some of your questions, what are we doing right now? What am I doing right now, and how has the coronavirus affected our business and plans? So yeah, I'm in a very empty office right now. I'm the only one here. I have the fortunate situation where I can escape from my house once in a while and come here both to use our editing suite and log on to the servers and get some work done. But otherwise, all of our shoots, all of our plans, everything that we've been otherwise planning for, well, certainly the springtime and now getting into the summer has been pretty much put on hold, which is a little bit of a bummer. But we are going to get through it. Specifically, right now, I've been working on a feature-length documentary project with a super talented adaptive athlete named Trevor Kennison. Trevor, about 5 years ago, suffered an accident up on Vail Pass here in Colorado where he broke his back snowboarding. And he and the folks over at Fat Tire came to me last summer with an opportunity to do a short-form content piece with Trevor, and that very quickly turned into it's going to be a multi-year feature-length film all about Trevor and his story, which is really cool and really exciting, and we can talk more about that later for sure. But it's been interesting because the bulk of our shooting plans were really tailored towards the latter half of the winter or spring season, and really everything was cut short. I think it was the 18th of February where we pulled the plug. We were supposed to go up to Jackson for a week, and then right from there we're going to go to Eagle Pass up in Revelstoke, British Columbia, and everything was, the plug was pulled. And it's provided an opportunity for us to shift gears a little bit, though, because the nice thing about a long-form documentary piece is that you have the opportunity, well, really to tell a story. And as much as Trevor is a very talented athlete and doing some mind-blowing things, which you will see in the future, and they will blow your minds. As much as anything else, it's really about telling a story, and there's so much work for us to be doing on the backside as far as research and development and figuring out exactly how we're going to help tell that story. So we've been working a lot on that. I've been able to dive into a lot of things that you put on the back burner. As an independent filmmaker, I'm sure many of you know that your list of things that you want to do gets bigger and bigger, and it's increasingly difficult to cross those things off the list. But yeah, I've gotten to go through a lot of old footage that I haven't seen in a while. I've started what's going to be our first show reel since 2014. So lots to figure out there. But yeah, I think as much as anything else, that this is a really good time to take advantage of the lull in activity that's really otherwise kept our businesses afloat, and be creative and work on things that will help us all get back to some sense of normalcy when when that time comes. I've also been teaching myself some color grading tips and tricks and other things. So, I mean, there is a lot that you can do, even if you're not out shooting what you want to shoot. So, yeah, definitely something to keep in mind. Otherwise, yeah, coronavirus, how has it affected what we're doing? I mean, we're just trying to be part of the solution and not part of the problem, which is why our office is completely empty. I think it's really important for people to stay home, to wear masks when and if they're going out. And yeah, it's a pain in the ass, and it kind of sucks, but I think it's a necessary step to get things back on track. So we're doing our best to play our part too. We actually released a really cool piece about a week ago. The United Nations actually put out a request for content that my friends over at Image Brew, another production company here in Denver, they hit me up, and together we reached out to about 100 of my favorite professional skiers and asked them to submit a video of what they're doing to keep themselves busy at home, and we compiled that into a pretty cool little piece. You can find it on YouTube under Level 1. That's for people looking to see what it is we do, by the way. Level 1 is our Instagram handle, our Twitter handle, youtube.com/level1, facebook.com/level1. Website is level1productions.com. And you'll find all of that stuff is very much geared towards our work, specifically in the ski industry. In fact, the website, you'll see as much as anything else, is designed to support our platform for selling t-shirts and hoodies and hats and the other branded merchandise and collabs that we do that actually plays a big role in our business at this point. I've been telling people for a long time it supports my filmmaking habit, which is definitely the case. But we also run another website called level1.us, which is our commercial work side of things, which we continue to work on as time goes on. So you can also find some of our non-ski content and some of our more commercial oriented work there. So feel free to check it out. More questions. Let's see. My favorite locations to shoot or film. So over the past 20 years, I've had awesome opportunity to travel the world, go to a lot of amazing places and be with a lot of incredible people. I think Japan is probably the top of my list. I've been there 5 times now, and I can't wait to get back. It's a magical place. The people, the culture, the food, the snow, obviously, and that's one of the big reasons we obviously spend so much time there. But yeah, Japan is just wonderful. I've never had anything short of an amazing trip there, and looking forward to going back again. I think India, I'd also put on that list. One of the more interesting and challenging trips that I've ever had, but also one of the most incredible. I think from a cultural experience standpoint, it really opened my eyes. I mean, Japan is certainly a much different culture than we're used to experiencing here in the U.S., but wow, I mean, India was really another thing entirely. And I think that's one of the reasons I got into filmmaking in the first place, is really the opportunities it would create to travel the world and see different cultures and places. And yeah, I mean, to this day, it's one of the things that keeps me inspired to keep going. Otherwise, right outside our door here in Colorado, mountains of Colorado are awesome. And I mean, really, the more work I can do here, the better. And we've gotten a lot done over the years, and both during the winter months and summer as well. We're shooting some more and more mountain biking, and it's been a lot of fun. On the topic of traveling, I think this is probably a good time to start talking about our packs. So again, I'm new to the F-Stop Ambassador Program. And again, thank you, F-Stop. Really honored to be part of this really awesome program and group of talented filmmakers and photographers. And so I've only been using this pack for the past season, but nothing but great things to say. This right here is the Suka, which is the second to largest of F-Stop's packs. I will tell you, I do a lot of air travel, and so that was really one of the things that came into play as far as figuring out which pack I'd get, because really the Shin, which is the largest in the line, that's really what I wanted, and I wanted to go in that direction. and we can talk about reasons why in a second. But ultimately what it came down to is I don't think you can get away with packing your shin on or in the overhead compartment on most airlines. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a problem for me because I put a lot of expensive fancy gear in these packs, as I'm sure you all do too. And the idea of checking it is just, it's not ideal. So I got word that you could probably sneak the Suka in to most overhead compartments. And I think I'm like 3 for 3 so far. So I think you might get hassled at some point, but that's another thing, is that if you are ever hassled about what you're bringing onto an airline, I would just show them what you got in there and tell them how important and valuable it is. And if you be nice to the people checking in for your flight, they'll often either allow you to squeeze your bag into the overhead compartment, or once in a while they'll help you put it in this little first class storage area that it's usually not accessible to people like myself. But if you be really nice, they'll let you put some gear in there and keep it safe. So anyway, this is our Suka. As you can see, I mean, it's a pretty beefy pack. You know, there's not much that you can't fit in here. And, you know, I have a tendency myself to put probably too much gear in a pack to the point where it weighs too much. Which actually, on that topic, I've got another little travel tip for you. So, again, when I'm traveling on an airline, I'll want to bring as much as I possibly can into the cabin with me, and that means cramming as much gear as I can into my bag. And oftentimes with my red kit, often a still camera body as well, maybe a half dozen lenses or more, media, some hard drives, your laptop, batteries. I mean, I've gotten this thing to weigh over 50 pounds, which, I mean, I've also hiked with that in the backcountry at a similar weight, and that kind of sucks. But as far as dragging a huge pack through the airport, one of the things that I found is that you can get for pretty cheap on Amazon all kinds of these little luggage cart carriers here. This one I think was maybe 25 bucks. I mean, it's a very simple plastic and aluminum extendable frame situation with some bungee cords attached to it. But what I've found is that when I max out my pack as far as weight goes and I'm trying to go through an airport, I'll also often have a second backpack as well. So if I can put the big one and the heavy one on something like this, which I'm not going to go through the full details now, but you can place it on here, slide this thing up, figure out how to attach these guys here with some clips and the bungee cords, and it makes life way easier, especially when you're running for a flight. So anyway, something that I've gotten a lot of use. I think this is my second one. I definitely broke at least one of these over the years. Nice little travel tip. Anyway, back to this pack in particular. I'll show you guys while it's here how I have it set up. So again, talking about gear real quick, specifically shooting skiing. I mean, so much of what I do is action sports, snow sports, film, skiing. I mean, it's more or less documentary format where you know, it's advantageous to have a pack that's in a gear kit that's trimmed down to the essentials. Make sure all of your bases are covered as best as possible, and not travel with extra gear, and just figure out, like, what do you need to cover all your different focal lengths? What can you get away with for the bare minimum of batteries to cover your shooting days, and just bring what you need. So my go-to kit, got a red Gemini. I'm gonna tilt this thing up, see if I can give you all a peek at how I pack it here without dumping it all out. But you can see that I have my red Gemini with my 24-105, which I will say is like my favorite go-to lens. If I had to take one lens on a trip with me, I mean, this would be it. It's got, you know, a decent range. It's not super wide. It's not super long, but as far as my particular style of filming and wanting to run and gun and cover bases, I mean, this really does almost everything. And I like to, I don't always have to travel with it fully assembled or almost fully assembled like this, but for a lot of the shooting I do, the ability to take it out of your case and have it ready to go with just 1 or 2 steps, it's been super helpful. So if I can leave a battery on, right now I'm running this Global Dynamics United battery, which is, it's a new product, super low profile. This has about, I want to say 2/3 the capacity of your traditional red brick, which, man, I mean, I was running red bricks for years, and to be able to have something that has so much of a lower profile, you can see it right there, really nice. Really haven't had a chance to put these things through the ringer yet, but so far so good. Again, shooting handheld, grip really comes in handy, no pun intended. And then the 24-105 with a variable ND, which super important piece of the puzzle for me. And then of course our screen. So this was another tip that somebody gave me a couple years ago. Thank you, Kyle Decker. As far as packing these screens, red screens, they're very expensive. They're, I don't want to say that they're fragile, but they look kind of fragile, and the last thing you want to do is damage one of these. So having some kind of hard case, you can quickly and easily slide your screen into, and then I've got my pack set up in such a way that the screen slides right in through a couple of the dividers that I positioned vertically like that. Anyway, so point is that the Suka definitely allows me to run with a camera that's almost entirely assembled, and really takes about 30 to 60 seconds between powering it up and locking the screen in place to get it on. A couple other things right here. I will stack a microphone. In this case, the Rode Video Mic Pro Plus Pro, something like that. Most of the DSMC2 Red cameras do not have phantom power, so traditionally the Rode NTG3, which is a really nice shotgun mic, especially for the money, really nice, would be my go-to. But since again, these new cameras don't give you phantom power, you need to come up with your own power source, and this has been an awesome microphone to cover all your bases. Anyway, other lenses in my pack, the basics here, 70 to 200, which would be our longer range lens, and then 16 to 35. And again, I can get away with most of the project I'm shooting just with those 3 lenses. You know, if I have the opportunity to, I've got a really nice 85 1.2 and 24 1.4 and a 50 1.2. I mean, the primes are awesome, but for documentary style, in the field, action sport filming, it's almost more important just to manage the weight in your pack and find lenses that give you a range, so you're not going to be swapping lenses in the middle of a blizzard. On that point, another interesting tip that I will bring up for you today. So working in the backcountry and in winter and snow environments, the weather is really one of the biggest factors that we have to deal with, specifically snow and moisture and just mitigating the risk of damaging your gear and keeping it dry. So I've had a lot of different camera covers over the years, and you know, as much as you can spend like hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a really nice custom cover, grocery bags and plastic bags have been the best fit, the best bet, and I've had the most success. I've actually used plastic garbage bags and a little bit of gaff tape to make some custom camera covers, but this random recyclable grocery bag, something about hunger and zero waste, I mean, I cut that up, I created a little gaff tape backed up hole where I can put my screen attachment through, and then your lens will go through there. And frankly, it's cost nothing to make. It's super cheap, super easy. and it's gonna get the job done as well as or better than any fancy nylon custom pack, custom camera weather cover. Yeah, people kind of look at you funny when you have tens of thousands of dollars of gear wrapped in a trash bag, but I mean, if it works, it works. Let me see. I guess another one of the questions here is my favorite style of shooting. This is kind of pertinent to our chat about the gear that I've packed in here specifically. I do have a Movi Pro. I love shooting out of helicopters and just I love the fancy toys when and if there's a place for them. But ultimately, handheld is my go-to style of shooting. It's what I'm most comfortable with. I rarely use a tripod unless I'm shooting across a valley, a Barbie angle as we call it, in skiing. I love the idea of not being attached to some sort of fixed point and being able to move around just to cover angles and really just create as much variety in the coverage that I'm producing as possible. So yeah, I do own a tripod and I will use it once in a while, but I prefer not to unless I absolutely have to. And handheld is my favorite thing to do for sure. Let me see. Oh, here's another one. Well, I guess somebody asked specifically tips for shooting in the backcountry. We already went over the grocery bag, camera cover situation. Again, like fogging is a huge thing. When you are out in an environment where it's below zero and potentially way below zero, it'll create a situation where your camera will create condensation when it is warmed up. And I've seen it time and time again. In fact, I've learned the lesson the hard way myself by taking a frozen camera out of a pack in a really warm hotel room, snowcat, or lodge. I mean, you name it. Your first inclination when you get back, or even in the middle of a shooting day when you take a break, is to want to take your camera out of the pack. Don't do it. Don't do that at all. Chris O'Connell, who's a super talented ski photographer from back in the day, Armada Skis, he explained his trick was basically to let his camera sit in his pack and acclimate for hours. And as much of a pain as it was, because you want to get your cards out and charge your batteries and just like get your gear and kit set for the next day, the necessity of letting it chill out literally and figuratively for a little bit was really important. And yeah, I've seen a lot of people fry their cameras over the years, especially the Sonys back in the day had all kinds of issues when you would not let them acclimate and they get super foggy and condensation would wreck them. So yeah, patience. Let me see what else we got here. What's the most important thing when it comes to filmmaking? Camera gear, team, inspiration. I would say first and foremost, it's inspiration. I mean, 2020, you can go out with an iPhone and make a Super Bowl commercial, apparently, at least according to Apple. So I think gear is really not the biggest piece of the puzzle. I mean, it's nice if you can have a fancy camera. And I mean, really, something shot on a Red will more often than not look a little nicer and give you a little more flexibility than something shot on a $1,000 mirrorless camera. But at the same time, it's really about how you're using the equipment that you have to work with. And I don't know whose quote it is. I've heard it 100 different times and ways, but the best camera you have or the best camera you can have is the one that's with you when you need it. And I mean, that basically speaks to the fact that, everybody doesn't have access to everything at all times. And whatever you got in the situation where you're trying to document something is really going to go a long way towards helping you achieve your goals. So yeah, I think to answer the question most specifically, inspiration is really the biggest component in creating a successful film. Having an idea, having a story to tell, having some sort of direction, whether it's from somebody else or from you, I think goes a long way towards helping you create a piece of content. And that's probably like the singular most important ingredient in creating a piece of film. Team, I think, is a huge piece of the puzzle as well. I mean, you could certainly go out as a one-man band and have no actors, no talent, no other crew, and just shoot your own film, and I think that's fine. But let's see. But certainly having a team that you work well with is very important. Certainly in the context of some bigger projects. Again, back to what Level One has been doing for the past 20 years. We make an annual feature-length ski film, or have up until this point. And for the first 4 or 5 years, I was pretty much all by myself. And what really allowed Level One to grow was when I was able to establish a team. First, Friedel Cody became a big piece of the puzzle here, and then later Kyle Decker and Shuey Bauman. But ultimately, like having a team where everybody contributes a different point of view and a different skill set, I think goes a long way. Whether it's actually in the context of a production company or even just a simple project, I think having people that you work well with is a very valuable thing. More questions here. Okay, please tell me a little bit about backups on the road. So you cannot back up your content enough. Again, lessons that I think everybody has learned the hard way at some point, and that's what it takes to learn those lessons. But yeah, I mean, our workflow is I will come back at the end of a day and back up my content, my shots to 2 separate drives. Like very first thing I do, and make sure that everything lives on 2 separate drives at all point in times. A single backup is really never enough, because I mean, when that backup fails, you're screwed. You can't wait for that to happen. And then in my case, like I'm based here in Denver, so I will come back home and I will then back up all of these hard drives to the servers in our office. So that will then create a third backup. And the servers, I should add, are rated. So I mean, there's at least some additional level of protection there. But all of our content will effectively live from there on out on 2 separate rated servers, or 2 other hard drives and a rated server. So again, at all times, at least 2, if not 3 backups, I think is really important. And on the road, specifically, let's see, I mean, there are a bunch of, the Lacy rugged drives I think have been our go-to over the years. Those have been nice, but they're not necessary. And these days, hard drives are so cheap that whatever you can get, especially if it's while you're on the road, just for the sake of having a single backup copy of something, doesn't really matter. I mean, I think you can get like a 5 terabyte little USB drive from Seagate now for $100 or something like that. So yeah, I mean, it's a good thing to invest your money in, hard drives for sure. Let's see, another question. Do you feel like you go handheld because of how often you slow frames for the projects? Yes and no. I think like I've always shot handheld, even before we had cameras that allowed for adjustable frame rates. I mean, that's just been my particular style. Again, specifically because I'd shoot a medium or long lens angle and then run in to get a reaction shot wide. And I hate the idea of being stuck to a fixed position. And I feel like at a certain point, especially because I'll mention that I'm often the only shooter on a project, in order to create a level of coverage that almost looks like there's more than one filmer there. Just really the ability to run around is what makes that most important to me. I mean, certainly being able to slow down a shot and shoot high speed frame rates is really nice, because you can get away with a little more, but I've also been fortunate that I got a smooth and steady hand, I guess, which is definitely lends itself to shooting handheld. Let's see. What do you think of drones? Drones are awesome, man. I wish I wish I had more time and more money and skill, because yeah, I mean, if you are a talented drone operator and you are operating a nicer drone with either a larger payload or with a camera with a nicer sensor, I mean, the content that you can get from a drone is amazing. I mean, it's really comparable to a Cineflex or an F1 or any of these, like, camera systems that might be many hundreds of thousands of dollars that are going to go on the bottom of a real helicopter, and then further create a situation where you're paying thousands of dollars an hour to rent or lease a real helicopter. So I mean, the bang for the buck drone cinematography is changing the game for sure. I also think that there's never going to be a replacement for people on the ground that know how to operate a camera, but certainly the opportunities and the production value that's opened by shooting from a drone, I mean, it's really something else. And we've worked with who I think is the most talented drone operator in the world. Check this guy out, by the way, Johnny Durst, aka Air Blaster. He used to be a director at Level 1 for a few years, then went on his own and has since proven himself to be like just dominating the FPV scene, and he's creating some amazing stuff. So check his stuff out for sure. Let's see, how many projects has Level 1 done so far? So the movie that we released last fall is called Romance. That would be our 20th and what we called our final annual feature project. So, I mean, if we're talking about feature-length films, call it 20. Get back to that in a second. I just saw a question popped up. What lenses are you using the most? So, again, going back to our chat from earlier, I use Canon L series lenses. I think they've got the most bang for the buck, at least as far as for my particular style of filming. If we're doing a project that requires something else, I mean, certainly we'll rent a nice set of Cineprimes. But for my style, I really like what I get out of these Canon L series lenses. They're great. They hold up to a watt. They're very well sealed and protecting your camera and the lens elements from moisture and weather. And again, this 24 to 105, call it one lens. If you had one single lens, you could get away with shooting so much. In fact, that there are definitely projects where I've like spent an entire day with like a full pack of lenses and never switch this thing out and just let it run. And this is actually the Mark II series, which does not have a macro feature. I mean, truth be told, the original version also had a macro function as well, which I think that the optics might not quite be as good, but as far as going back to this concept of using one lens for something for an entire day of filming, that was really where it's at. So part of me really misses the older version of the 24 to 105. Anyway, back to the number of products we've done, 20 feature films, working on another one right now. But in addition to that, I think we've probably cut many hundreds of short form content pieces, whether it's a commercial for a brand, an edit for an athlete. I mean, it just it goes on indefinitely. So I think that number is probably pretty big if you really want to get into it. Let's see, any film awards that you've won? So honestly, most of the content that we've produced over the years in and around skiing has been not story driven, but action driven. I think that's one of the things that Level 1 has really been most known for over the years is pushing the boundaries of what's going on in the sport of skiing. And it's been all about the action, or ski porn as some people like to call it. But yeah, I mean, a lot of our content is screened at festivals that are more geared towards action ski flicks, and we've won probably every award that you can, and most of those over the years, from best cinematography to best editing to movie of the year to whatever. But really, it's exciting for me moving forward to create some content that's a lot more story driven and open it up to festivals that are really on a broader scale. That's one of my personal goals and one of the things I'm most looking forward to doing. What's next for you when all of this is over? So I'm not sure if that means like today or a lot of people seem confused actually last fall when we released our 20th and final annual feature-length ski film that was going to be the end of the line for Level 1, which is definitely not the case. We are continuing to grow just in different directions. I mean, honestly, you do anything for 20 years straight and it's like Groundhog Day. I started at Level 1 when I was 21 years old and I was still in college, and I've never had like a real summer outside of editing ski films in my entire adult life. And so I think, I mean, there were a lot of reasons why we wanted to shift gears, but yeah, I mean, Level 1's not going anywhere. We got a lot of cool stuff coming down the pipeline, both within the core skiing community and beyond. Let's see. I mean, I think we're coming down to the end of the line here. Romance is an epic film. Thank you. Do you have your team of filmer, or do you also hire freelancers? So a little bit of both. We definitely have our go-to team of filmers that I've got a great relationship with, and when you work with somebody over an extended period of time, you definitely have a level of trust and you know what you're going to get. And I think that's a best case scenario where you can provide very limited direction to somebody and know what you're going to get out of it because you trust their vision, you trust their skills, you trust their style and their eye. And I think that's really important in establishing relationships with people that you know and work with. But at the same time, that can't always be the case, and we'd probably be limiting ourselves if we didn't open up to working with more freelancers. And you know what? Everybody that's part of our core team now, there was a first time that we worked with them, and that certainly will continue. And I think that there's always room and exciting opportunities to work with more new people. Let's see. Anybody else have any final questions? That's okay if not. Cool. Well, I guess that's pretty much it from me here in Denver. I think we're gonna leave this on Instagram stories for a little bit. So if you guys want to tune in, maybe we'll put this on YouTube as well. But feel free to reach out to me directly. My company's Instagram handle is @level1, and let's see. My personal Instagram, I don't really use it for much, is how Josh is living. But yeah, feel free, hit me up, or on the Level 1 site, you can find my email address, probably send a email through there, whatever works. I'm always happy to talk to people, answer questions. Yeah, that's one of the things that's inspired me the most over the years is wanting to reach out to and help other filmmakers. So anything I can do for you all, I'm happy to chat at any time. So please don't be shy. And let me see, something about being a small business owner, ? Oh, how was it starting Level 1 being a small business owner? Okay, we'll run through this real quick. Level 1 has been a really interesting approach to small business. I started again. It was my fourth of 5 years in college, and when I started Level 1, I had no idea that there was going to be any kind of long-term play here. And frankly, if I had long-term goals, I probably would have failed. I went into this very naive and very blind as far as how the world works, how business works. I had no business plan, no idea. I mean, really the thing was I was an aspiring professional skier while I was in college, and I injured my knee, and at that point, I hopped behind the camera lens for a season to keep myself busy while I healed, and the plan was then to go back to attempting to be a professional skier for a little bit. And my knee never healed, and here we are 21 years later, so I mean, things definitely went a different direction. But again, I think it speaks to the fact that I never really had much of a plan or much of a goal. But yeah, I think the secret to success, if you really want to call it that, is just been being light on my feet and very adaptive over the years. I think the most successful business owners that I know, and I am not one of them, have run their business in such a way that they are very reactive to change in the markets, change in their consumer, change in demands. And I think the best way that I've been able to follow that lead and that example set by other people is just by how we've diversified Level One. We create feature films. We've had a tour that supports it. We run events and contests. We sell branded merchandise and collabs. We do additional commercial work with the brands and clients that support our feature films, and really just a number of different revenue streams that all support one goal. There are definitely points in time where some of them aren't as robust as others, and the fact that we have so many different streams all operating at once has let us survive over the years. So I think that's been it. All right. Well, it is time for me to go, but thank you guys so much for tuning in. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much, FSTOP, for this opportunity. Proud to be an FSTOP ambassador, and looking forward to seeing you all again.